Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. Thanks for joining us tonight, whether you're watching the vodcast live or you're watching the vodcast when you're just replaying it, or if you are listening on the podcast. We're really glad to have you in the audience. And we're so appreciative that you would come and join us. And we have a comment already. Oh, we have a lot of comments already.
Where'd those come from?
CW Hawes says, hi, Rob and Joan. Hi, CW.
Chris.
As a matter of fact, we were going to show your book in a minute.
Yes.
And Joe Conjal says, hi, Rob and Joan. Paul Hollis says, hello, Rob and Joan. Nice to see you again. Good to see you. We're really glad. Keep those comments coming. You know that we love them.
We do. We'd like to invite everybody to tune in after our show tonight. Go over to blogtalkradio.com and listen to the Voice of Indie podcast, Beam Weeks and Stephen G's. It's a great show. Tonight's guest live is Betty Stevens from Maine, and she's a really good author. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And if anyone has trouble getting there, just let us know, and we can turn you that direction. The book that Joan wanted to show was this one here by C.W. Hawes. There we go. First book in the Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles series, and it's book number 1 out of 9 books. And I'm partway into it, and I have trouble putting it down, don't I? Yep. So good job, CW.
Yeah, we've got some more. Oh
my goodness.
Caleb Pirtle says, my ghosts and I are looking forward to hearing John. Everyone's looking forward to hearing John.
Are you trying to tell us something? You don't want to listen to us? Just kidding.
James Ricketts said, I better get in the bandwagon. Hi, guys. Hello, James.
Hey, James.
It's good to see you again. And Marjorie Daring says, it's nice to be had. LOL. Wait, no, you don't. Yeah. CW gives us a thumbs up, says, thanks you for showing the book. Joe Conjal says it's a real good book.
It is really good. I'm hooked.
Linda says, hi, that's Caleb's better half. Sorry, Caleb, but you know, I'm a girl, so I have to say that. All right, so I'm really excited about tonight. Those of you who know me, which is most of you know, that I love everything paranormal. And we had a really good time with John last night when we did the pre-show and the run-through for the headphones and all that kind of stuff. I will say this, it was very interesting because the spiritual energy was on high. Both Rob and John froze to death, and I was sweating like crazy. There was just so much energy. And also, all of the equipment went bonkers. So if you're hearing feedback and stuff, bear with us because
it may be a struggle.
Yes. Now, John is well known in paranormal circles. Most people that have been in paranormal circles for a while have heard of John and know who he is. He's a psychic medium. He does readings. He's been doing that for 50 years. He's been studying the paranormal and investigating the paranormal for 57 years. He's a certified tarot master. And now he's a published author, which I'm sure has been so much fun for him because we all know how much fun it is to write books, don't we, guys? He also filmed a TV pilot for the History Channel, and he's been on all kinds of podcasts and radio shows, including Coast to Coast, which is, for those of you that listen to paranormal things or know paranormal things, know that's the preeminent radio show to be on. So kudos to him.
Absolutely. That's George Noory, right?
Yep. He's because the first guy passed away and George took it over. Yeah. Pretty cool. We're excited, to say the least. That was it.
That was it?
That's all I had to say.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I
Well,
could talk about
It's
him
been
all
a great
night, but
show.
it should
Thanks for
probably
joining us.
bring him on instead.
Oh, that's right. We got to bring him on.
Yeah.
That's right. Hey, John.
Hi,
Welcome
John.
aboard.
Hi, Rob and Joan. How are you doing tonight? It's so good to be with you again. And I have to
Doing good.
tell you, now I'm burning up. I am literally on fire sitting here.
Oh my
Oh.
gosh.
We have the air conditioner running, and I am just burning up. So the spiritual energy is here again tonight.
Well, I hope I don't get freezing now. So we did kind of switch things, but
Do
no,
a switch swap. Right, right.
yeah, but no, I'm still kind of, a little bit warm. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah. So how would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? Like clue people in on who John Russell is.
Who John Russell is, yeah. This all started when I was, excuse me, when I was about 5 years old. I was sound asleep in my bed, and I woke up totally, completely wide awake, no grogginess, no drowsiness, and I couldn't figure out why. And I thought, well, maybe I heard a sound outside, maybe there was noise outside, and that's what woke me. And I laid there real still and listened, didn't hear anything. And my parents had put a night light in the hallway, so when I woke up, I had to go to the bathroom or whatever. I had a night light. And I couldn't figure out why I was so wide awake and no grogginess at all, no drowsiness at all, which was unusual for me because I don't wake up that way even now. And I raised up on my elbows in bed and just kind of looked around my bedroom, and my bedroom door was open. I looked down the hallway, and in the night lights glow in the hallway, around one of the doors in the hallway, this elderly black man was peering around the door frame at me. And I screamed bloody murder when I saw him because my family was white. We didn't have anyone black living with us. I don't think we even knew anybody black then. And my presumption was an intruder had entered the home. And after I screamed, he walked around the doorway into the hall, started walking toward me, walking toward the bedroom. And his eyes never left mine. And his look was not menacing. It was just kind of benign and a little bit perplexed as to why I was screaming my head off. And he was every bit as solid as you or I. He wasn't transparent, wasn't translucent. He was absolutely as solid as you or I. And I knew he was elderly because he had close cropped white hair and he had a white mustache. And he had on a red flannel shirt and khaki pants, black shoes, and a black belt. I can remember to this day. And absolutely, totally solid. And here he comes walking to the bedroom, and I scream bloody murder again at the top of my lungs, and he starts to disappear. And he becomes translucent, becomes transparent, and then vanishes just about the time my parents get there. And even though I had seen him disappear, I said, there's somebody in the house. And my parents, of course, were trying to tell me, no, you just had a bad dream. You saw, something on TV and it scared you, give you nightmares. And I knew better. I knew that I wasn't asleep. I was wide awake, and that I had seen someone in the flesh who then subsequently vanished. And my fright was so real that my father actually went around, checked all the closets, checked under the beds, checked the doors and windows to make sure they were locked, and everything was secure. So they tried to get me to go back to sleep. And of course, that took forever because I'm like, where did this guy come from? Where did he disappear to? Why did he come? It was scary as all get out. Is he going to come back? Is he going to ask me to do something weird that I don't want to do? Or, what's the deal here? And so for a long time after that, days and weeks after that, I spent most of my life looking over my shoulder and being reluctant to go to bed and go to sleep.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, these physical paranormal events started manifesting on the physical plane. And I had this epiphany that connected those things for me. And I realized that this guy had come to open up that portal to these experiences. I didn't understand completely why, but I knew that they were going to be important to me and eventually be important to other people. And that put me at ease with everything. And I was never frightened of anything again, ever. And I've had over 1,000 of these, way over 1,000 of these paranormal physical manifestations now. So that was the beginning that opened up the experience to the other side of these physical manifestations, the ghostly experiences and the visits from angels, guardian angels, various other spirits and things. And as I got, I guess, close to 6 years old, and I was out playing in the backyard with a toy, and this car pulled into the driveway, and I didn't recognize the car, and I didn't recognize the people in it. And I ran inside, and I told my mom and dad, I said, there's somebody just pulling the driveway. I don't know who they are. And they said, okay, we'll come out and see. So they walked outside, and they said, oh, these are friends of ours. And I'd never met them. I didn't know who they were. So they got out of the car and come up on the sidewalk, and they were all standing out there talking before they went in the house. And I came up and just kind of stood there in the middle of them for a second and looked up at them, and I said, you folks have just been on vacation, and you drove that car on vacation, and you took 2 kids with you. They're not with you today, but you have 2 kids, and you took them with you in that car. This hotel that had this many floors, and it was painted this color, and it looked like this. And in the front of these trees spaced at regular intervals, it looked like this. And in the back, the pool area looked like this and was painted this color, and so on and so forth. And I remember the husband, he kind of looked at me and my parents and kind of like this bemused look on his face, like, what in God's name is going on? And his wife, it was priceless, because she was literally gape-jawed and bug-eyed, looking at me like I had cobras growing out of my ears. And she looked at my parents, and she said, how the hell could John have possibly known this? And my mother said, oh, you know, kids and their imaginations, kind of trying to pass it off because it was very uncomfortable for everybody. And she goes, imagination. She goes, how the hell could he possibly know this? That's what we came to tell you. We just went on vacation. We took our car, that car, with our 2 kids. We stayed in this hotel that looked exactly like John described. How the hell is it possible that he could know this?
Wow.
And my mom and dad were like, John, go play now. And I was like, okay, nice to meet you folks, and went off with my toy. They never came to visit my parents again. So I guess I did the life out of them. And that's why I discovered that I had this gift, that I could see into people's lives. I could tell where they had been, what they'd been doing. And then I learned that I could also predict their futures and do that with accuracy. And so that was when I learned I had the psychic gift in conjunction with these paranormal experiences. And they kind of married together. And I began to study everything I could find to enhance my gift, to train the gift. And I wanted to find out what was true, what wasn't, what worked, what didn't. Because even at a very young age, by the time I was 11, I had seen that in the religious realms, in the spiritual realms, psychic and paranormal realms, there were a lot of people that were phonies and frauds. And there were a lot of people claiming things that they believed in certain principles or precepts or whatever. And in real life, they didn't exhibit that moral compass, and they didn't do those things. And I said, well, you're a fraud, you're a phony if that's the way you are. And then I observed there were people that were thieves, and there were people that misled people and took advantage of people. And there were people that believed things that just simply did not work. And instead of discarding those in favor of trying to find something that did work, they would just continue on with that, even though they knew it wasn't workable. So my big thing began to be, let's find the truth. Let's find what works and what doesn't. Let's discard it if it doesn't work. Let's have an ethical and a moral compass where we don't mislead people. We don't mislead ourselves. And then just trying to figure out, how does this thing work and how can I make it better? And to do that at the age of 11, I'd always been a really excellent reader with good comprehension. I was a fast reader. I've plowed through thousands and thousands and thousands of books in my life. And at the age of 11, I began to read everything I could on psychology, parapsychology, religion, spirituality, the psychic realm, the paranormal realm. And I found a lot of stuff that was unworkable. I found a lot of stuff that was, people had written about a book that somebody else wrote about a book that somebody else wrote about a book, decades or eons ago, that didn't work then, it doesn't work now. And instead of people trying to find something original, they just wrote about what was already written and expounded on it. And people were like, oh, this is genius. I was like, no, it's nothing. It's just a rehash of what didn't work to begin with. Yeah. And so that set me on this journey to discover everything that I could about the psychic realm, paranormal realm, to make it workable and to make it work in my life and to enable me to help others. So that's how it all started.
Joe Conjal has something to say. He said, I've not seen anyone, but I always feel like I'm just missing someone walking past my kitchen doorway. It's always at night and usually while I'm alone.
I think this is pretty common.
I do too.
It is. Yeah, it is. we had and I write about this in one of my books, we had what I call the hungry ghost in my house. And it was, my sister and I had moved back home. We had both divorced and moved back home. And my mother was becoming bedfast. And we moved back home ostensibly to take care of her. But I think in reality, we both needed a little decompression, a little safe place to go back to.
Right.
And so it worked out well for everybody. And we had a big house, and there was an apartment attached to the house that my grandmother used to live in. My sister was living there. And I would come in at night when I would be out and come in late. There would be a night light on in the kitchen, and through the kitchen windows, which faced the back of the house, there were windows that faced the back of the house. I could see somebody moving around in the kitchen, going back and forth between the stove and the sink. And I thought, well, that's crazy. Why didn't my sister turn the light on? Because it was about her size and shape. And I thought, well, maybe she just finished up and she's grabbing her food and going back to the apartment. So I didn't think too much about it. And I came in, but I kept seeing that every time I came in. And one night it dawned on me, it's like, okay, I walked over to my sister's apartment, and she had kind of a gap in the curtains on the window there that I could see through. And I had just seen this figure in the kitchen, and I looked through the gap in the curtains, and there she is sitting on her couch in the apartment watching TV. So I'm like, oh, okay, it's not her. We've got a ghost going. And the ghost began to get noisier then and become more prevalent in its actions at night, more noticeable. And you would hear like cupboards open and close and dishes rattle and glassware rattle. And my mother heard that one night and called out and asked my sister to bring her something from the kitchen. And the sounds totally stopped, got totally quiet. Called up to my sister again. And so the next day my sister came in, she goes, why didn't you answer me last night when I called you? And she said, what are you talking about? She said, when you were in the kitchen, I asked you to bring me something and you didn't even answer me. And she said, I wasn't in the kitchen last night. And so we began to discover then, relate that this was this ghost, and we call it the hungry ghost because it was always in the kitchen.
In the kitchen.
Around. And it was funny if you heard it. And it was very noisy. I mean, the dishes and the glassware would be rattling just like people were getting dishes out and glassware out to prepare a meal or something.
Probably preparing soul food.
There you go. Oh.
We have a bunch of comments and questions here.
Thank him later. But when you would to get up to try and sneak in and try and see the ghost, the second you got out of bed, the noise would stop. It would get dead quiet. And then you'd try and sneak in there and try and see the figure again. You never would. But that went on for a long time. And it was really funny because we would have little dinner parties at the house. And there would be all kinds of wild, bizarre paranormal manifestations. And some of the guests would be so scared that they wouldn't go anywhere in the house by themselves.
There you go.
It was pretty active. But it's very common to see or feel or experience spirits in houses. And for some reason around kitchens. And one reason that may be, kitchen's a place of love, preparing food, family, gathering together, good memories. And that seems to attract an unusual amount of energy.
Yeah. So we have a bunch of questions and comments for you. Paul says, fascinating experiences. Why? Wow. Yeah. Linda wants to know, Linda Pirtle says, do you hesitate to give bad news to a person?
That is something that I had to learn over the years as I went. And what I did, and I tell everybody that I give readings to, I say, look, this is not me. This is not my opinion. I get the information from the other side and I give it to you unfiltered. And what the guys on the other side begin to do for me, they would tell me how to approach someone. For example, that if their father was going to die, I remember one instance I was talking to a client and they told me, tell them this. And I said, listen, you need to grab a plane ticket and go spend some time with your dad. And that was the way they gave it to me to tell them. And they were like, oh, that sounds ominous. And I said, well, just grab a plane ticket and go spend some time with your dad. You need to spend some time with your dad. And they let me know that he wasn't going to be around long. And that was the way that person could accept it and take it. And then other clients I've had, the guys have told me, say, hey, tell them their dad's got 2 weeks and they need to tend to business. And I would tell them exactly that way. And because the other side gave that information to me and knew that was applicable for that person, the person received it that way.
And they could
most
take
the
care of
time, they would
business.
say, you know, I had this feeling. I just had this funny feeling. And so over the years, anything that the other side has given me, they've given it to me in a way that it makes sense for the person involved and that they can receive it and act on it. And that's the way I've always done that. So do others in my family also share my psychic ability? Yes, but nobody to my degree. It is there in lineage, but I've had the most powerful demonstration of psychic ability of anybody in the family.
CW wants to know, why isn't everyone who dies a ghost?
Well, everybody is. I mean, when you die, you're a ghost. Technically, you go to the other side and you're there. So technically, if you want to say it that way, you're a ghost. But I think what they mean is, why don't they come back and interact? And that's the thing that we don't know. Some people go on the other side and they begin to communicate immediately and dramatically.
Yes.
And then sometimes people are on the other side, and for whatever reason, they communicate very little or very sparsely, or take a very long time before they do communicate.
Well,
so,
and then like you mentioned my grandfather before the show tonight,
right.
And I don't know that he's around.
Yeah.
So he's here.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that.
Right.
You know.
So that probably happens to a lot of people.
That probably happens to a lot of people. Yeah.
It does, because, you know, you have to be able to be in tune to that visitation from the other side to be able to pick up on that. The analogy that I give is like where we're all sitting right now, all of us, all the listeners and everybody, there's radio waves going through the air invisibly right now, bombarding us all from multiple sources. But we're not aware of them. We don't hear any music in the air or anything.
No.
But if you grab a radio and you tune it to a certain station, oh, there's country music being played. And you turn it again, oh, there's some jazz music. Well, that's all in the air constantly, but we're just not aware of it. And it's the same thing with the paranormal realm. These entities, these spirits, these energies are around us constantly, but some of us has the ability to tune into them better than others. And again, some people, for whatever reason, we don't know. I wish I did, but we don't know. For some reason, people on the other side, certain people are better communicators than others are.
Just like in this realm. So Caleb wants to know, can you tell what will happen to people, or only read what has already happened to them? Before you answer that, we have a bunch more questions and comments. However, we also need to do a commercial. So as soon as you answer this question, we'll go to commercial.
And then we'll pick up where we left off.
Because we need to get a word in from our sponsor.
Yeah.
Can you tell what will happen to people, or only read what has already happened to them? And I want to remind everybody, we have plenty of time to do this show, so we'll try to get to everybody, and we'll go over the hour if we have to, no problem, okay?
And we probably will.
Yes. Yeah, I can tell what has happened to people in their past, and I can accurately predict their futures, and that's been proven out with my clients time and time again. So I am able to see into the future, and sometimes years and sometimes decades into the future. With accuracy, because there are some things that are not changeable, that don't change. There are some things that are changeable, but there are some things that aren't. And for example, the very first crash that we had where the wheels came off, I predicted that about 4 to 5 years in advance. And it's a matter of record that I did. I told my clients on all the radio shows I was on, I said it and gave the timeline for it and everything else, and boom, there it was. So I'm able to do that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, let's take a couple-minute break. When we come back, we'll pick up where we left off. We'll probably talk about some of John's books and do the book giveaway.
Let us tell about how to reach him and what his books are. And I see your comments, and I know that they're, and we'll get to you as soon as we do.
And anybody watching on LinkedIn, you can make comments too, even though you don't see it there. Go ahead and find it on your screen, and you can make comments, and we'll see them.
Yeah, I do want to mention again that we're broadcasting on 6 different channels. And so if you're commenting and we're putting up comments and you don't see those comments, that's because you're on a different channel than they are. That's all that's happening.
We'll see them. They'll come right to us.
We'll see them.
Yeah. Okay, so let's break for our commercial.
We'll be right back.
Be right back.
Dear Lord, she's still alive. Who's still alive?
Maris! That's who!
Come on, Angie, that's impossible.
Impossible or not, she's still alive, I tell you! She killed that boatload of people, and she's just getting started. There's no limit to what she will do.
It's not easy to kill a siren. It takes a formula and a plan. Siren Song 2 is the spellbinding sequel to Siren Song. Both novels by George Noory.
Siren Song 2 will be on bookshelves and bookseller websites in July. Don't miss it.
Hey, look at us. We've got a new store.
Yeah, we do. It's pretty exciting.
What can you find there?
We have a number of designs available on t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, laptop and phone cases, pillows, and new designs are coming in all the time.
Sounds like a great place to shop for authors and readers.
Yeah, and it's easy to find. It's simple. Just visit indiebooksource.com, click on the store tab, and you're there.
Welcome
Hello.
back.
See, we
All
told you.
right, let us tell you how to get in touch with John. His website is johnrussell.net, JOHNRUSSELL. Another website is, this is for one of his books, is writingwithghosts.net. I think you all know how to spell Writing with Ghosts. And another website is aknockintheattic.net. That's his second book, and I'll be showing you those covers in a minute. If you want to reach him on Twitter, you're going to do John Russ, so that's JOHNRUS 232-16971.
And that's not his phone number.
His Facebook, Writing with Ghosts, LinkedIn, John Russell Author. And again, that's Russell with RUSSELL. Then we have an email is johnrussellpsychic@hotmail.com. And before we get to the books and your book covers and the book giveaway, John, you still do readings for people. So if people want to have a reading, how do they reach you?
Just go to my website, johnrussell.net. There's a link to click on that says click here to schedule a reading with John. And the complete instructions are there. You pay through PayPal. It's completely safe and secure.
Perfect.
I get a receipt that you paid. You'll get a receipt that you paid. And right now I'm scheduling into October of this year.
Okay, perfect. So there it is, folks, johnrussell.net. Just go ahead and click on there and let him know that you'd like a reading. And I think he's excellent, by the way. Just saying. We know he is.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Can tell from personal experience. John Russell, Writing with Ghosts, Angels, and the Spirits of the Dead. This is your first foray as an author. Is that not correct?
That's correct. First foray as a book author.
Yeah.
I've had some things published in the past sporadically.
Yeah.
In various magazines, articles, so on and so forth. But that book came about. I had shot a TV pilot for the History Channel, and that unfortunately fell through. And my producer and I became friends and continued to work on trying to get me on another television show. And while we were doing that, he said, take some of these hundreds and hundreds of paranormal experiences you've had and just write little brief snippets of them, make a little blog up that we can use as an additional marketing tool. And I said, okay, so I did that. And about that time when I was riding my motorcycle, I've been a biker since I was age 15. And while I was riding my motorcycle, I began to have this huge amount of mind-blowing, bizarre paranormal experiences, even for me, that were related to my motorcycle rides, directly to my motorcycling. And I wrote a little bit of those up and put them on the blog, and it kept happening and kept happening. And it lit a fire in me. And I said, these things are so incredible, even by the standards of things I've experienced, and they're meaningful. And what I've got to do, I've got to take these and expand them into the full version of what happened, put all the details in of what actually occurred. And then I have to collect these into a book, and I did. And that was the way that Writing with Ghost Angels and Spirits of the Dead was born. And it was an easy write, which is unusual for an author. As you know, I think most authors struggle. I know I do. It's like you look at a sentence and you look at the word that you're choosing, and you go to the dictionary and you say, well, this word has this meaning, but this other word has this nuance of meaning that's about the same, but just a little bit different. Which one do I need? And you wrestle with that for 10 or 15 minutes. And then you put it in the sentence, and then the editor goes, nope, and then chooses something completely different.
Throws it right out.
Writing to me it's an effort. It's a struggle. So it was surprising that the first book went as well as it did, and then the second book, that was a monster. That was a nightmare. A Knock in the Attic. This is actually sort of a prequel to the first book, and then it goes back to my childhood, to that awakening, and goes on up through my childhood to my teenage years, and then to my young adulthood, and into my adulthood. And talks about my learning along the way, the paranormal experiences along the way, what it was like to grow up with that psychic gift and to be in the spiritual and paranormal and religious community as a young man with this developing gift and grow up that way. And then it comes on up to the point where I shot the TV pilot, moved to New York, moved to Florida, and carries on from there. And this book, even though I knew everything in it by heart because it was all a real experience that had happened to me, I had the biggest struggle with this book of anything on the planet. And when I got done with it, I ran it through, no exaggeration, I think 5 different spell checking programs. One program was this involved, complicated, convoluted thing that went through and not only checked for spelling, but for punctuation, for grammar, for everything else, way beyond word. And ran it through that. And every time I ran it through, I would catch things that the program had missed the first time. And I'm an excellent reader with excellent comprehension, an excellent speller. Every time I went through it, I would find things wrong. And I did all of that, sent it to my editor. My editor found a ton of things wrong. So it was the most difficult book to write and to get smoothed out and to get finished. And it came out really good, but my God, it was an effort. It was just like this huge weight the entire time. And now my third book that I'm writing, it's going smooth as just like the first one. It's just sailing along. It's really great. But the second one, boy, it was a bear. And I don't know why, but it was.
Let me get to some of these comments, and then we'll do the book giveaway.
Okay, we got to go up to catch up here.
I know. Let's see. So James Ricard had said, what a tale. C.W. Hawes says, what is on the other side? Ha ha, C.W. Do you
What
really
is
think
the other
we
side?
can tell?
What is the other side?
Oh, what is the other side? Yeah.
The other side is my umbrella term for everything that happens not in the physical realm.
Yeah.
That's where the ghosts are, and the angels are, and the spirit guides are, and the nature spirits that occasionally manifest physically. So that's an umbrella term for me, a very generic term that just means if you're dead, you're on the other side. If you're an angel, your primary place of being is the other side, and so on and so forth.
Joe Conjal says, do you think that most ghosts that interact died a violent death or died prematurely somehow?
Oh, not at all, because there's ghosts that died very pleasant deaths or normal and natural deaths that still have that desire, that need to come back and interact. And they come back because they've got loved ones here. They want to protect them. They want to watch over them. They want to interact with them, let them know that they're still alive, that they're okay, that they're there. And so that's, I think, the majority of things. And of course, there are people that die under violent circumstances or unusual circumstances where they're murdered or tortured or whatever. And they may want to come back and seek redress for that, to tell their story, to have other people honor that and make some kind of a memorial to that. So there's all kinds of motivations for visitations from the other side, but
I think when you look at the TV shows that are on right now, pervasive throughout our TV realm,
right,
you would kind of take that as the possibility that because that's where most of the places that they go to, old psychiatric hospitals,
Right.
war, places where big battles have been
Prisons.
fought, prisons, where all these, traumatic experiences and deaths have taken place, violence. So if you just watch those shows,
You're going to get that
you're
impression.
gonna kind of feel that maybe
Mhm.
that's what most of them are.
And
Right.
that does leave energy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it
any
does.
Oh,
traumatic-
absolutely it does.
That,
Absolutely
which
it
is
does.
different than visitation, but
Right.
Yeah.
it does leave energy. So I think that gets confusing.
But
for
you
people.
can also find positive energy even in those negative places.
Oh yeah.
You
Oh,
can.
absolutely.
You can.
Just like the
Yeah.
mobster, the rich mobster that donates money for a little children's hospital ward. There can be kindness in even the most dangerous or evil people, and likewise you can find some of those energies coming through even in very negative circumstances.
Here's Marjorie has a question. Do you ever receive insights into events in your own future, John?
All
Yes.
the time. Yeah, absolutely. And I tell people that they say they're psychic and they can read for everybody else but themselves. And I don't believe in that. I don't think that's true. I think what happens is we want to exercise our wishes and dreams and will and want to see what we want to see happen. And instead of recognizing that we're subject to the same things that other people are and having to face certain realities and things in our own lives. So instead of just facing that and acknowledging that and saying, okay, what do I do with this? A lot of people will hide behind, well, I can't read for myself. I can't see my own future. But I've always been able to read for myself, and I've always known pretty much what was coming in my own future and still do. And I think most people can if they're willing to accept the reality of what's coming. May not be what you want to hear, but if it's negative, there's ways around that. And if it's positive, there's ways to connect with it.
I got to read you this one.
Mhm.
James Ricketts said, the audio is out of sync. Is it my connection or are you guys possessed?
We're possessed.
He said he's going to log out and come back. So he left Facebook and came back on YouTube and he says hello again.
We
Much
were
better
having
now.
a lot. We have had more technical issues
With us
on the
and John.
pre-show with
Yeah.
John than anybody
And
else.
John thinks it's
So-
because of the energy between the three of us is so.
It is.
but really,
Yes.
it's just John is possessed.
There you go. There you go. Easy answer. Easy answer. But
And
I
Rob and
was-
Joan are possessed.
Yeah, I was telling Rob and Joan on the pre-show last night that my guys for most of my life had messed with electrical things and electronic things and messed up things and done all kinds of things. And last night when we were trying to connect for the pre-show, we had about 5 or 10 minutes of grief to even try and get connected. I could hear them. They couldn't hear me. They could hear me. I couldn't hear them. Nothing worked. The video didn't work. This didn't work. That didn't work. And we finally got connected. And then things kept glitching and going off and messing up the entire time. And then tonight, boom, first rattle out of the box, everything connected, everything's good, except I am burning up.
Yeah.
Let me share
Like
something
I was
else.
last night.
Yeah.
Last night, about 3 a.m, I think it was 2 or 3 a.m.
Mhm.
I have a CPAP machine that I haven't used for a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
And
Because
it
he
was-
had surgery on his head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had my brains examined. But I should have them
They
examined.
looked to see, make sure he had some.
Make
But
sure he had some.
But
Yeah.
it's there. It doesn't have a timer on it.
Yeah, there you go.
It had been used, and
Mhm.
actually it wasn't the CPAP machine. It was the cleaner for it.
Right.
It only, you have to push a button to run it. And it had completed its cycle 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
and it was just sitting there, right?
And it come on.
It came on.
Yeah.
It woke us up, and it makes a
Well,
god awful
woke
noise
me
for about
up.
7 minutes. It woke you up, but then it eventually woke me up
Because
you
I woke
me
you
up.
up.
But
It
I have,
all-
it has never
there's
done
been
it,
a-
ever.
There's been a lot of people, I tell people, if you really think that you want to experience the other side, don't hang around me unless you're serious, because I'm a portal and a magnet for that stuff.
Well, thank
And
you,
I
John.
affect people in circumstances at a distance. And there have been a lot of times that I've affected people at a distance. People that talk to me, communicate with me, will have things happen. I told y'all I was on a podcast with a guy in the UK, and he began to experience all this paranormal phenomena.
Yeah. Howard
on the
Hughes.
air.
Yeah.
And so that happens a lot. I've talked to a lot of people that after they've been around me, they've gone home, had things happen, and there we go. And it's one of those things that it just continues to occur. One of the other weird things that I have happen is there have been several clients that have told me that they said, John, you have a very distinctive voice. I got that Texas accent and the deep voice. And they said, John, your voice is so distinct and so unmistakable. And on the morning of the reading that you were going to call me, before you called, I would hear your voice out loud in my home saying, hey, good morning, so-and-so. And that's happened a lot of times. So
That's
I affect
interesting.
things at a distance. I affect people at a distance. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on. So it doesn't surprise me to hear you say that.
Well, as I told you, I've always had that electrical stuff going on with me too. So it was interesting for me to meet someone that said the same thing. Linda Pirtle says, have you ever asked God why he gave you this psychic gift?
When I was young, I wondered that. But then as I grew up, it was like, why does God give somebody the ability to run a marathon in, under 2 hours? And why does God give somebody the ability to be a concert pianist? And why does God give somebody the ability to be a brick mason that builds this perfect, wonderful home? And it's just, we all have these different gifts, and that's mine. And I don't know why. Any more than anybody else knows why they get a particular gift. Why does a violinist, a world-class violinist, get that gift and others don't? Why does Billy Strings have this enormous gift of playing the guitar? And I've played guitar since I was a kid, and I can make enough noise to amuse myself, but that's about it. So, we all have varying gifts, and it's the luck of the cosmic draw for whatever reason.
So Joe says that he asked that about the violence because of how haunted Gettysburg is, and it definitely is. It definitely is. Yeah. And George Dismuke says, how do you explain spirits being earthbound? I thought spirits either went to heaven or to hell.
I don't think spirits are earthbound. I think that spirits choose where they're going to be, where they're going to hang around, what they're going to do, and for whatever period of time and for whatever reason. Because when you go across to the other side, you're still you. Your memories, your history, your personality, your experiences, your memories, your sense of humor or lack thereof or whatever, all of that goes across, all of that carries across. And so then you're going to say, I hated my family and everything to do with them. I'm out of here. And you may look at them and say, God, I can't leave these people. I love these people. I got to be around, watch over them, protect them. So you're not earthbound. You make those choices. And for the people that want to chime in and say, well, what about these spirits that are sent to the light, or these portals that are closed, or exorcisms that are done? That's all nonsense. Okay. You don't exercise anything. You don't close any portal. You don't send anybody to the light. These are things that we do not have the power to do or the ability to exercise over this other realm. And I was on a podcast the other day, and we were talking about the Queen Mary. And there's this little girl that haunts the pool there or whatever. Well, we were laughing because he was saying, everybody that goes there encounters this little girl and sends her to the light so that she can be free and go on. And yet every new paranormal group that comes along encounters this little girl again, right? So you don't send anybody to the light. You don't get rid of anybody. You don't help anybody cross over. You're crossed over. If you're dead, you're crossed over. You're there. You're on the other side. And so then the argument comes up, okay, what's happening there? Because the same little girl is encountered by all these different groups that come through that supposedly free her and send her to the light. So is this a spirit on the other side that goes, I got him. Watch, here comes another group. Oh, help me. So is it somebody with a really great sense of humor? Or is it something that replays like a film over and over and over again in the atmosphere? But, the same thing's always encountered. So obviously you're not sending anything to the light.
Well, that is something to talk about. There is such thing as a residual energy that's different than an intelligent one. And
Interacting energy. Right.
As you know, as a paranormal investigator, you come across a lot of residual where it happens at the same time, at the same place. And that's just like a videotape that kind of was,
replays in the atmosphere.
It does, because for whatever reason, because you did it 15,000 times a day when you were alive, and it's still
exactly
going.
Right. Exactly right. Through. And then as far as closing portals and getting rid of spirits or doing that doesn't happen. And that's been my experience time and time again. And one of the most interesting things, there was a world famous personage in the paranormal realm. And if I were to mention that person's name, everybody on the planet would know it. And they're deceased now. And they knew everything there was about everything on the other side and blah, 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 blah. And they were friends with a psychic that was a friend of my wife before I met her. And they got together, and there was a well-known case in New York where this family was having all these experiences that they perceived as difficulties because it scared them. And it scares a lot of people when they encounter the paranormal. Even though it's not threatening or not malevolent or not dangerous, that's the way we've been taught, or else we're just, oh my God, it really is real and it scares you. So they were having all these experiences in their house. And this world famous personage and our psychic friend went to close the portals, to dismiss the spirits, to send the spirits to the light, and yada, yada, yada. So they did that, and the case is closed, the portal's closed, all the spirits are gone, no more problems. Well, history is written by the victors, right? And if that would have been the case, that would have been the end of it. But the really neat thing was, I happened to be browsing the bookshelves and found a book written by this family, and as told to, that was written by this family that was experiencing this. And they talked about this world famous personage and the psychic coming and what they did and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And they pronounced the spirits gone, the portal closed, everything cleansed, everything calmed down, and so on and so forth. And it reactivated worse than it ever was. And so that was the great thing, was to get to hear the story from the other side, not just from the people that went around, oh, I succeeded in getting rid of the spirit, so on to the next thing, look at me, because it doesn't happen that way. Every experience that I have ever known of where somebody has tried to close a portal, send spirits away, get control of spirits, every single time it's made the activity worse. And it does not close any portal. That's just something that we cannot do. That's not within our power. So we have to realize that, and we have to realize that when these spirits are interacting with us, when they're going in and out of a place or working around a place or doing something, there could be beings there that we don't even know who or what are, that we have no way of classifying or understanding. And their motives are not our motives. They're not human-minded. They're not human-hearted. That's not to say they're evil. That's not to say they're malevolent. That's not to say they're dangerous. But just like my dog isn't human-hearted, okay, he's something entirely different from me. And so there are things, beings, entities out there that are, I see you look over at your little dog.
Well, she was looking at me.
Yeah,
there you talking. Yeah.
When you said that.
Entirely different from us.
She goes, what?
And we have to make allowances for that and say, okay, we don't understand everything that's going on the other side. Anybody that tells you they do, they're lying or they're self-deluded. It's just, we don't have all the information we'd love to have. But
we would like to.
That these things occur. The ghosts know they are ghosts, or do they think they're still living here? Yeah, like I say, when you're dead, you're on the other side. You know it. And the analogy that was given to me by one of my spirit guides one time, they came to me in a lucid dream, and they said, "Okay, we're gonna answer that question for you. We're gonna show you what it's like to die." And they said, "Now, if you're in a car driving along the road, you're aware that you are physically in that car, the car representing your body. And so you're in that car, you're driving along the road, and all of a sudden, put, boom, plop, and it stops and you're out of gas, and you open the car door and you get out of the car, you're aware you're no longer in your car. You've gotten out of the car to open the hood or to check for gas or whatever, this, that, and the other. So you're aware that you're outside of the car. You're aware that you're outside of the vehicle. So when you die, the vehicle stops running. You're out of the vehicle and you're aware that you're outside of your body. You're aware that you have crossed over to the other side. You don't go into some strange void. You know, there's guardian angels, there's our deceased friends, there's our deceased loved ones. There's all this retinue of beings on the other side that are going to be there to connect with you, to meet you, let you know, hey, yeah, that's right. You're looking at your old dead body there. It's time to come on over here. Let us show you how this realm works and what to do next.
So Joe Conjal says, I'll admit that the thought of my mom or dad still watching or checking in on me keeps me from doing certain things that I know they would disapprove of. It's weird because it didn't always stop me when they were alive, LOL.
I hear you. But yeah, that's we do have to think about this invisible realm that sees us, hears us, interacts with us.
Sorry.
There have been times that deceased loved ones have come to me during a reading and said, tell my daughter I saw her go to my grave and put stones on the tombstone or whatever. Those types of things.
That's sweet.
So they do see us, they do hear us, they do interact with us, they do watch over us, and they are aware of us. And it's really funny you say that because J.V. Johnson, who does a podcast, who's been involved in the paranormal realm for many, many years. Most folks know who he is. And he wrote the foreword for my third book, and I'm a guest on his podcast frequently. And he said, John, he said, that's kind of creepy to think that all these people watch us and see us. He said, that's going to kind of make me change the way I do something. And I said, yeah, it's something to think about, because we do have to realize that we do have that interaction. And like he was saying, it didn't make a difference when they were alive, but it does have that creepier feeling when you realize they're on the other side. They're invisible. You can't see them, but they can see you. And they can know what you're doing and watch over you that way. So it does have that kind of little creep element to it that kind of make you think, wow.
Yeah.
We have to break for a sorry.
We do.
We have to break for another word from our sponsor. We'll be right back, and we'll
be back.
Book giveaway.
And we'll do
right
the
away.
book giveaway.
Yeah, as soon as we get back.
All right, hang on, folks.
Many secrets are hidden within the darkness of the jungle. Behold, this one about a man, a woman, a black jaguar, and an ancient Maya legend. Two Faces of the Jaguar is a novel by George Noory that will take you deep into the jungle and capture your imagination until the last word. Two Faces of the Jaguar is book one of a trilogy. Two Faces of the Jaguar, where only the adventurous dare to read.
Two Faces of the Jaguar, The Lost City, and The Jaguar's Quest are available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and many other bookseller websites. Two Faces of the Jaguar, the book people are talking about. Get your copy today.
In a world where advancing technology is outpacing crime solving, the O'Rourke team continues their relentless pursuit of justice. Bioprints is the first book in the O'Rourke crime novel series where it's high-tech crime versus old-fashioned detective work. Visit carternovels.com or amazon.com and check out Bioprints today. Ooh, and we're back. Okay.
Faster than we thought.
Whoa. Book giveaway. Here we go. First 3 people to email johnrussellpsychic@hotmail.com will win an ebook copy of choice of his books.
All right, we'll keep that running up there, but I did want to quickly bring up your third book, which will be coming out in the fall. Is that what you said?
Yeah, hopefully September, October, in the fall, yeah.
20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities.
Right. And this book is a lot of fun. This is a book that people have been asking me for off and on over the years, and that I wanted to write just to get rid of the gobbledygook that surrounds spiritual training and spiritual teaching. And this is a very, very simple book that produces concrete physical results. This is not pie in the sky by and by stuff. This is not just another book to read and then meditate or have an inner experience and go, oh, well, that was neat. This is a book that will help you to manifest things on the physical realm. And what I do is, the reason it's called 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities is there's 20 chapters. And there's one technique per chapter. So 20 different techniques in the book. And for an example, the first chapter is on psychometry. And in each chapter, I define what it is. And then I tell you how to begin to learn it, how to use it, how to practice it, how to get good at it, and then the real world application of it. And for an example, with psychometry, as we were talking about last night, I've taught several people to successfully utilize psychometry in 5-10 minutes time. So in this book, that's the whole purpose of it, is to take away all the rigmarole that surrounds things and all the superstition, all the dogma. For example, seances. I have a chapter on how to conduct a successful seance. And a lot of times you've been told that a seance has to be conducted under certain conditions, maybe a certain day or a certain moon sign, or a certain, low light or no light at all. And that's nonsense. I've conducted successful seances at noon on a bright sunny day. So,
and that it's dangerous to break the circle.
Yeah, dangerous to break the circle. Something bad will happen to the sitters or to the medium. That's nonsense. Yeah. And if it's conducted in pitch black, that's so the person with the night vision goggles can goof around in the dark and make you think paranormal things are happening, and they're not. And for the people that say, oh, you can't turn on a light suddenly or whatever, it could damage or harm or even kill the medium, that's a bunch of ignorant nonsense. That's just stupidity. It doesn't happen.
And like I told John, I suck at psychometry, so I've got to buy the book.
You got to buy the book, yeah.
And figure out what the heck I've been doing wrong.
And one of the things about the book and the techniques in it, what I wanted to do was simplify things and make them workable where anybody could use them and get real results from them. But I also wanted to put in each thing the real world application of that. So, for example, with psychometry, I don't want you to go to a party and say, oh, let me see that tie clasp. This belonged to your uncle and he was a railroad engineer and blah, blah, blah. And, oh, neat party trick. But it shouldn't end there. You should be able to develop that where you do that, sure. But you should be able to take that out into the real world and go, I'm not real sure about this friend of mine, if they're true to me or not. And you want to be able to grab a hold of them. Hey, how you doing? And then get an impression of if they are a true friend or a false friend. You want to be able to look at a contract and put your hands on that contract and go, okay, I'm getting the energies from this. I shouldn't sign this contract. This is not going to be in my favor. So real world applications to all of these things. So I think it's going to be a fun book for everybody.
Marjorie Deering wants to know, do you have any particular feelings about Ouija boards? Oh, John's had this question before, I can tell.
A jillion times, yes. I love Ouija boards. I've used a Ouija board since I was about 15. The Native Americans had a talking board type deal that they used. And going way back in recorded history, you can find references to talking boards or things that were similar to talking boards. So I've been around a long time before, Parker Brothers and so on and so forth. They've been around a long, long time in history. Now, I think people have watched The Exorcist and said, oh my God, if I use a Ouija board, I'm going to be possessed. I'm going to open a portal. I'm going to summon a demon. It's going to be bad luck, whatever. Think about something here for a second. We use tarot cards. We use crystal balls. We use pendulums. We use runes. We use dowsing rods. We use ghost boxes. We attempt EVP. And to none of that do we assign, if I do this, I'm going to open a portal and a demon's going to come possess me. Only Ouija boards. Why does the Ouija board get the bad rap? I've never understood that. We don't assign that to any other thing. And yet all these other things are still contacting the paranormal realm and interacting with the paranormal realm just as you would with the Ouija board, some even more directly. If you're using EVP, you're actually getting a more direct contact than you are.
Absolutely.
So no, Ouija boards aren't harmful in and of themselves. And it's like I say, and I have a chapter on the Ouija board in my book. And it's like I say in my book, if something scares you, don't do it. Find something else. Do some other technique. If it's just stuck in your head that this thing is dangerous or this thing is bad or this thing's inherently evil, don't do it. Use something else. Find something else to experiment with. But there's nothing inherently dangerous or evil about a Ouija board.
I think I told you last night that we had recently done an investigation. A young woman was having problems with an entity that was constantly with her and jumping in the car with her when she went to work and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And we never heard from him all night long in the investigation. But at the end of the night, we had 24 questions asked and answered using a flashlight, where the entity turns the flashlight on and off, including how many children she had and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And she even knocked the flashlight across the table at one point, because I kept messing with the flashlight, trying to make it easier for her to turn, and I made it more difficult, so the flashlight went flying. And that's the same as using a Ouija board. We were asking questions, we were getting answers. Yep. We have it all on film. We all had it videotaped. I mean, it's obvious that no one's touching the flashlight. Mm-hmm. It's not the battery meeting and heat coming on and making it turn on and turn off. This was intelligent answers, direct answers to direct questions. The same as a Ouija board.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
the only thing with the Ouija board, I've often wondered, everyone puts their fingers on it. Mm-hmm. And what's the likelihood of someone trying to direct it?
Right.
Or not even knowing they're directing it.
Do you actually have to touch it to get it to answer?
There have been instances where you don't have to touch it, that the planet will move on its own. Yeah.
Right. Yep. And so Joe Conjal wants to know, John, have you given any thought to writing fiction, perhaps a paranormal mystery?
I am actually on the side, piddling with it when I can, working on a horror novel that has strong paranormal content. So that's down the road. I don't know. I have a friend of mine that is an award-winning published author that has quite a bit of notoriety, and she's a friend and a client. I've known her forever and a day. And she said, I tried to write nonfiction, and I realized my niche is fiction. I'm a fiction writer. And I told her, I said, well, I'm not sure about myself, because I know my niche is nonfiction and writing these books about my life experiences in the paranormal, because of the feedback I've gotten. And people are saying, I love your style of writing. I love the way you write. It feels like I'm sitting across the table having a conversation with you. And so I've had this novel in my head since I was in my 20s. And for some reason or the other, I've never gotten there. But I finally started trying to put words on paper with it and get there and see if I don't know if it's any good. I'll have to let somebody else judge that. But yeah, I am working on a novel with paranormal overtones. So we'll see how that goes.
So John, you probably have some type of precognition.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There you go. Well, once again, should we go over the book giveaway?
Oh, we can do that. Sure.
Yeah.
Book giveaway tonight. The first 3 people, if you haven't already entered, first 3 people to email johnrussellpsychic@hotmail.com will win an ebook copy of choice of one of his 2 books.
Yeah, and what I'll do, I'll just look at the timestamp on the emails that come in, and the first 3 that get there, that'll be the winners.
Awesome.
If you didn't get in when we first announced the book giveaway, go ahead and try anyway, because you never know. John might even, write you back and say hi. You never know.
I usually get up about 5 in the morning and start answering emails and check my schedule for the day and so on and so forth. So yeah, there's a chance I can say hi to somebody.
Well, thank you, Joe.
That is a neat shirt.
Well,
Joe Conchel says, "Love the shirt, Rob."
Aliens don't believe in you. Aliens don't believe in you either, is what it says at the bottom.
I love it. That's great.
I like it, and it matches my headphone band. Is the same color green.
There you go.
Yeah,
He's
it works.
Coordinated tonight.
I'm very coordinated. Yeah.
There you go.
Actually, I'm not very coordinated, but that's okay. I wanted to ask you, speaking of aliens, you've had some UFO experiences.
Yeah. A
Would
lot.
you like to relate any of those to?
I would. One of them, it's a little long-winded, but it's all relevant. And it leads up to experiencing the UFO and seems to be connected with it. And there seems to be a lot of times paranormal phenomena connected with UFOs. And so this was back when I was living in Texas. I was about 20 years old. I'd been reading professionally since I was 18. I'd had a ton of paranormal experiences on the physical realm, a lot of times witnessed by other people and everything. So I knew these experiences were real, but I didn't believe in UFOs. I was like, nope, just not buying it. I read the magazines, read the stories, seen the interviews on TV. It's like, nope, ain't buying it. Don't believe it. Not at all. And so I was at a place one afternoon. Now, this is in West Texas. I grew up in West Texas, and we're the tip end of Tornado Alley. So bad hailstorms, softball, baseball size hail, frequently golf ball size hail, damaging winds, bad thunderstorms, rain that in 20 minutes time will flood your yard or flood underpasses, that type of thing. All kinds of bizarre weather phenomena. So I'd grown up seeing that and was experienced with that. So I was coming out of this building and my car was parked across the street, a narrow 2-lane street, and I could see the car in the parking lot when I walked out the door. And the first thing that hits me in the face is this big blast of wind. I'm like, oh boy, looks like we're in for it. And I looked up and of course it's overcast and the clouds are darkening. This is about 4 p.m. And I said, well, I better run for my car. So as I start to take off from my car, there is this columnar cloud and a column coming down from the clouds attached to the clouds above. It's maybe 4, 5, 6 feet in diameter. And it's sitting, touching the parking lot. It's down in the parking lot right next to my car. And I'm looking at this thing and I said, well, is it a dust devil? Is it a tornado forming? What is it? It's dark, it's black. And as I stand there and watch it, these glowing orbs emerge from within it and come just to the surface of the cloud and then recede back in. And they're fluorescent, they're red, they're yellow, they're orange, they're green, they're purple, they're blue. And I look at this thing and honest to God, I'm not kidding you guys. My first thought that comes to my mind is, okay, here I am. I'm 20 years old. I've lost my mind. I'm hallucinating. This cannot be real. In spite of all the paranormal experiences I've had. And the thought honestly went through my mind that, okay, when I resolve this thing, I'm just going to drive to a hospital and say, hey guys, this is what I'm seeing. What's wrong with me? And I'm very serious. That's what went through my mind.
Huh.
And then I get this irrational urge to walk toward the parking lot, to walk toward the cloud. So I take a few steps toward it and it moves toward me. I stop and it stops. I back up and it backs up. I did that a few times. I said, okay, absolute proof positive. There we go. Barking on the truth. Absolute proof positive that I've gone nuts. And so I'm standing there. I back up by the door and the door flies open, hits me in the back. This buddy of mine comes out and he goes, oh man, I'm sorry, son. What are you doing standing so close to the door? And before I even answer, he looks up and he goes, boy, it looks like we're in for it. And then he looks over and he goes, what in the world is that? And I go, I'm jumping up and down. I'm like, hallelujah. I'm not crazy. I'm not nuts, because he sees it too.
Wow.
And so I said, watch this, watch this. So I walk toward the cloud. It moves toward me. I stop, it stops. I back up, it backs up. I do that a few times. I look over at him. I say, isn't that the weirdest thing you've ever seen? He looks at me like I'm the weirdest thing he's ever seen. He goes, bye. It scares him to death, and he's out of there. His car's parked away, and he's gone. Wow. So I'm standing there by myself with this thing that now I know that is real, with all these orbs coming in and out of it and all this stuff. And I'm like, what in God's name? And as I'm standing there watching it, for all the swirling and roiling and boiling that this thing is doing, I noticed that down in the parking lot, there's debris. There's papers and cups and things around the base of this thing that should be blowing all around, swirling all around or whatever. The debris is not moving. It's just sitting there while this thing churns. And I'm like, holy cow, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. I just can't get a read on it. So about that time, it sucks back up into the clouds above. They begin to pass over. And I'm like, wow, make a run for the car. And I'm like, what in God's name was that? So I start driving home, and I know this town like the back of my hand, still do to this day. And as I pull out, I'm on Chadbourne Street, and I'm going down through Beauregard, Tuig, all of this. and there's cars angle parked on the side of the street, and it starts to rain. So I turn on the wipers and I turn on my headlights, and the rain begins to come down so hard, no exaggeration, I can only see about a foot beyond the hood of my car. That's how hard it's raining. I can't see the cars that are angle parked out my passenger window, and I'm poking along, 5-10 miles an hour. That's all I can do. And I'm like, my God, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. I've never experienced rain like this. And I'm going to hit somebody. Somebody's going to hit me. And sure enough, I'm poking along, and I pass Beauregard Street, which the Sears Roebuck is on at the time, had one of the best sporting goods stores in the basement of the time. And on Twig Street, which was the street back of it, there was a large parking lot where they had the Sears Automotive Center, and then a big parking lot in the back where you could park. So I get to Twig Street, and I see this little teeny tiny red glow appear, and I realize, oh my God, that's the stoplight. And my car headlights pick up the car in front of me just in time for me to jam on my brakes, nearly hit them. The car behind me nearly hits me. I can see his lights come up in my rearview mirror. And the rain is constantly that hard the entire time. So the light changes, and the guy in front of me creeps around the corner. I creep around the corner, and I'm trying to keep his bumper in my headlights so I can see it and see where I'm at. You still can't see the cars out the passenger window that are angle parked there. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. I'm going to hit somebody. Somebody's going to hit me. I'm going to scrape one of these cars. So my thought was, I'll get to the Sears parking lot entrance. I'll pull in there, jump out. I don't care how soaking wet I get. I'll run inside, go down to the basement, look at the sporting goods till the storm passes. Then when it's safe to drive again, I'll go up and drive. So we're poking down Twig Street, and I've got the steering wheel, and I'm leaned over as far as I can lean, trying to look out the passenger window to try and see these parked cars that I know are angle parked over there, and count it off. I mean, the rain is that hard. Visibility is zero. Now we're clear. The rain doesn't slack off, doesn't start slowing down. It's just it's that heavy 1 second. Literally the next second, it's totally, completely gone. There's not a mist hitting my windshield. And I'm just gobsmacked. I reach up and turn my wipers off, and it's still overcast, but not a bit of drop of water is falling anywhere. I look at my rearview mirror behind me. I look all the way up in front of me. Everything's clear all the way around. I'm like, what in God's name is that? And about this time, the people that are coming the other way on Twig Street are starting to swerve over toward us and nearly hit cars in our lane. And people are honking their horn, and people are yelling, and people are rolling down their windows and pointing up, and people are jumping out of their cars and pointing up. And I'm like, my God, everybody's gone crazy. What in the world is going on? And I looked at where they're pointing, and they're over the back of the Sears building, about 30 to 50 feet above the Sears building, is this shiny metallic UFO about 30 to 50 feet in diameter, just sitting there hovering over the Sears building. No smoke, no flame, no sound, just sitting there perfectly still. And that's what everybody's yelling and pointing about and jumping out of their cars. Wow. And I see this thing, and I literally do a cartoon eye rub and look back up again, because I'm not believing what I'm seeing. I don't believe in UFOs. And there the damn thing is. So I reach for my door handle. I'm going to get out and get a better look, although I've got a perfectly clear view of it. But I just want to get out like everybody else is, and like, God. And so when I reach for my door handle, the UFO just barely perceptibly moves towards us a little bit. And instantly the clouds rush from behind it, cover it over, and the rain is back right now in the same intensity that it was before. Doesn't start again. It's just instantly there again.
That's
interesting.
interesting.
I'm like, holy God. So I follow this guy in front of me. He pulls into the Sears parking lot. And I'm like, I don't care if I hit him. My insurance will cover it. I don't care what happens. I'm going to talk to this guy. So he stops, gets out. I jump out. The rain's come down so hard, it hurts. I mean, it literally hurts. And I've got a high threshold of pain. And I cover my eyes, and I'm running for the Sears store, and they had a vestibule there where you go in. There was an airlock. The basement was off down to the left, and another set of double doors that went into the store. and a big mat there you wiped your feet on when you came in. And the guy was just standing there, just staring down at the mat, dripping water. We both looked like we just got out of the shower. And I didn't wear glasses at the time, and I remember he did, and his glasses were all beaded with water and everything. And he was just standing there staring down at the floor. And I walked around in front of him, and it was a good little bit before he looked up and recognized that I was there. And I said, "Excuse me, but did you see what I just saw?" And he said, "Yeah, but I damn sure ain't going to tell nobody." And he went around me and walked into the store. And you got to remember, this is back in the 70s. You didn't talk about this. You were crazy. You were nuts. You were on drugs, whatever. You were made fun of. You could lose your job. You just didn't talk about this in public. And so that at least validated for me that, yeah, okay, I didn't have a hallucination. And so I had to switch denominations. I had to become a believer because there it was. I saw it with my own eyes. Witnesses that saw it. So it's like, okay, yeah, they're real. Here they are. But to this day, we don't know who they are, what their motivation is, why they're here. And I've had several sightings since.
What was that town? What town was that in?
In San Angelo, my hometown where I
San Angelo, Texas.
Yeah, San Angelo, Texas.
Cool.
And since I've had several sightings here in Florida, and another really astonishing experience here where I was Deborah. Okay.
George Dismuke said, "I had an alien experience. Its name was Deborah." And Marjorie Daring says, "Yep, George, that was your close encounter of the third kind. That was his third wife."
Okie dokie. But here in Florida, and I've had several before here, but here in Florida, we had a courtyard in our other house where I would sit out at night and look at the stars. I've always loved to be out at night, even as a kid. And it was an exceptionally clear night, no clouds, and just perfect visibility. And Venus was up. And over where Venus was, out of the corner of my eye, I saw this glowing orange orb. It had a steady glow, and it was kind of almost translucent. And it was coming along, and it was where it was in the sky was about the size and intensity of Venus. And as it came around, I looked at it, and there was no engine noise, no landing lights, no blinking lights. And I was like, oh my God, that's a UFO. And so it got around in front of me, and it was flying about as low and close as like a little Cessna airplane would. We had an airport nearby, which is why I thought it was a plane at first. And I looked at it very closely, no sound, no noise, no nothing. And it got over in front of me. And I stood up, and I psychically and verbally said, "If you can hear me, stop and reverse course." And the damn thing stopped, hovered there a little bit, and backed up. And I was like, holy God. Wow. And about that time, in 1 second's time, from being that close and that low, it zipped up into the heavens where the big aircraft fly overhead, hovered there a little bit, and in less than a second's time, shot up into the stars, kind of just wandered around there a little bit, and then shot off into the universe. Wow. No sonic boom, no smoke, no flame, I was like, and I was just absolutely gobsmacked. And I was like, my God, this thing somehow heard me and interacted with me. And then instead of hanging around, just boom, hey, watch this. And there it went. And so I've had a lot of these experiences, but I don't know who they are. I don't know what their motivation is. I don't know what's going on. And none of the ufologists do. We're all in the dark for this, except as we discussed last night, somebody in government has got to know something. We can't have the technology that we do and not know.
The congressional hearings were today, and we've seen we've seen a lot of videos, and everyone's seen the 2004 ones that were released in 2017
and everything, yeah.
But this time they showed the orbs. Mm-hmm. They showed the orbs in Congress, and a number of those, which we have seen those. Yeah. And then they showed the triangular ones too. Right. So, right. And they showed those in Congress. They have that credible people the Navy has taken pictures of. So
Yep.
Joe Concha wants to know, how do you think aliens travel from their world to ours? Wormholes, something else? What do you think?
We don't know. The best information we have, as we discussed last night, I thoroughly believe that Bob Lazar is credible.
I do too.
And I always have. George Knapp has researched him thoroughly.
Yes.
He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast with the guy, I can't think of the guy's name right offhand. And that interview, if that doesn't convince you, nothing would. And then there was a documentary that the man did on.
Jeremy, what's his name?
Jeremy Corbell. Yeah.
Corbell. Yeah.
Corbell.
I like him. I like
Yeah,
everything
he
does.
did the documentary on Lazar, and then he was on Joe Rogan's podcast with Lazar. And if that don't convince you, nothing will. And so I think that the research that they've done gives a little bit of insight into the possible propulsion systems, but we don't really know. And, the thing of it is, if there's different species, there has to be different technologies.
Right.
And so just like we have a different technology than the people in Africa did way back when, maybe some species of alien has a different technology from some other species. And maybe the old way is to get here through a wormhole, and this other species has developed something entirely different. And we just don't know. There could be many, many different ways and methods of traveling through space. And our problem is, what we have to understand in all of this, we look at things through the very, very restrictive and narrow glasses of us.
Our
and
experience.
So, for example, for years and years and years, what have our scientists said? Well, this planet can't support life. This planet can't support Earth life, is what they mean. But how do we know that an alien doesn't breathe nitrogen and like temperatures of 500 degrees Fahrenheit?
Sure. Yeah.
We're looking at it through Earth eyes. So we have to get out of that and say, okay, if there are aliens, they're not going to be like us. They're not going to have the same physiology. They're not going to have the same biology necessarily. And they're certainly not going to have the same ways of travel or be subjected to the same laws of physics that we are necessarily. So we have to understand that there could be numerous ways of getting here that don't affect them at all in a negative way where it would kill us. So we have to realize that, hey, look, we can't look at this through human eyes and say, well, you couldn't live on this planet. Life couldn't be here. You have to have this to sustain life. We don't know. We're talking about beings that we don't know what it takes to sustain life for them and how they live and what their conditions are and what ways of travel they have. And it's just like here, one person goes on a roller coaster that's so violent that it's absolutely unbelievable. And they're like, wee the whole time. The other person would get on there and pass out, vomit, and have to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So, look, we can't say, well, an alien couldn't get here from there. It would tear them apart or make them sick or blow their brains up or what. We can't say that because we don't know what their physiology is. We don't know what they've developed in their crafts and in their methods of travel that can overcome those things if they were subject to them in the first place. It's just like look at rams that back up and run across great distances and butt their heads together repeatedly. Why did they not pass out? Why did they not throw up? Why did they not go crazy? They've got these shock absorbers built into their skulls. Why can a woodpecker sit there and on your house and not go nuts and not just explode because they have these shock? That's the way they're built. So we have to look at nature and extrapolate things and learn, hey, there's things out there doing all kinds of things that are totally, completely impossible to us. But we've got critters here on Earth that are doing them. So how much more so if we extrapolate that into alien species that may be far more advanced or maybe evolved differently or whatever? They may have all kinds of technologies and abilities that are way beyond our kith and kin to understand.
Exactly.
I'm going to go back and show your book covers again one more time here. Writing with Ghost Angels and the Spirits of the Dead. That's John Russell's first book.
Right.
A Knock in the Attic, True Ghost Stories and Other Spine-Chilling Paranormal Adventures. And coming out this fall is 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities.
There's your dog, speaking of barking for truth. Marjorie Daring says, I so agree with that whole perspective, John. And Joe Conchel says, I think the government knows. They probably have being stowed away that they've studied. I agree 100%, Joe.
Well, this is a good segue into what we talked about last night, Joe. We were talking last night about, I was telling Rob and Joan that I had watched a documentary over a decade ago. And, one of the excuses that we're fed now by the government is that we just don't have the technology available to accurately capture these things, to understand them, to photograph them, to video them. And that has to be absolute, total, complete nonsense, because I watched a documentary over a decade ago. And in this documentary, one of our former CIA heads was interviewed. And he said, during the SR-71 Blackbird era, and the Blackbird was our premier spy plane, it flew so high that it flew in subspace, and it flew so fast that nothing on the planet could catch it. No bullet, no fighter jet, no rocket, no missile. And he said if you took 2 golf balls and put them on a putting green about a couple of feet apart, that when the Blackbird flew over at speed in subspace and took a picture of that putting green, and you developed that picture, that you could clearly read which one was a McGregor and which one was a Titleist on the golf balls.
Absolutely.
And he said at the time, that's decades old technology. Just imagine what we've got now.
Right.
So for the government to say that they don't have the capability to capture these things is absolutely ludicrous. And for all of our alphabet agencies and all the information gathering ability that we've gathered over the years, developed over the years, it's absolute nonsense to say that someone somewhere doesn't have the answer to this thing, doesn't at least have some glimmer of what's going on. There can't be total ignorance among the government, among all the alphabet agencies, among the government, the military, and science. Somebody somewhere has got to have at least a little bit of a glimmering of the truth out there. So I can't buy any of this nonsense that they're telling us.
Joe Conchal says they're protecting us.
They're protecting from they don't want to give up their greed and their power and their.
That's it.
That's it.
My brother was in the Secret Service, and he happened to be in electronic surveillance. And decades ago, he also told us, he said, you can be sitting in the park reading the New York Times, and they can read it. The government can read it because they have satellites going overhead. Never mind,
Oh, sure.
And they could read that newspaper that you're holding in your hand. He said,
oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So that just goes to prove the point that, yes, they can take those pictures. Yes, they can do all of those things. And I think Bob Lazar worked on a downed alien craft that used, isn't it gravitational fields to navigate, and magnetism? I think that's what he said.
I can't remember. I've read some of that, but I don't remember all of it. But the research was fascinating. And like I say, that could be only one method of propulsion. There may be multiple methods of propulsion.
Well, yeah, that would be one species of aliens.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
These glowing balls that they're seeing. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Well,
I think we better
close the show. Thanks for sticking in there, guys.
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed the heck out of it. We'll do it again down the road.
Awesome. That'd be great. All right,
one more
people.
Comment from Joe. Some of our high tech probably is from reverse engineering.
Oh,
no doubt about that.
No doubt about that.
Absolutely
no doubt.
Yeah.
I totally believe that. I mean, I really do.
It's been great, guys. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a joy and a pleasure meeting you guys and talking with you. The guests have been great, and
I know.
It's been a wonderful time.
Well, we were honored to have you on the show.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We love the people that watch our show.
So we're going to move you over.
Joe says,
stay
great
right
show,
where you're
guys.
at there, John. And let's see, great show, guys. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
A couple of things coming up this Saturday, episode Rewind, episode 25. Right where you're at right now watching, you can see the show with Abigail Keem and Lorraine DeCourt. That's at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, right here, right where you're at right now. Next Wednesday, May 25th, 7 o'clock p.m., our Wednesday night show like this one. live show. Science fiction author Doug J. Cooper is the author of the Crystal series and the Bump Time trilogy. So that's going to be a good show as well. I haven't talked to Doug in a long time. So that's going to be interesting. And do you have anything you would like to add?
No, I do not.
You don't?
No.
What?
Amazing.
You don't have the last word here?
No.
Okay. Well, maybe you will. Until next time.
That's all, folks.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DB.com.
You've been listening to WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows.